The Fiver exit Manchester United's human shield for their owners. Enter. Promoted to serve as a human shield for Manchester United's unpopular American owners, following the departure of his predecessor David Gill 8 years ago, Ed Woodward will officially step down from his post as chief suit of the Premier League's 7th-placed side at the end of this month. A man who seems to keep announcing his departure from Manchester United without ever actually leaving, it should come as no surprise to learn that he will continue to attend their board meetings until the end of the season, but will play no part in the day-to-day running of the club. He will be replaced by Richard Arnold, a man who friend of the Fiver and football finance expert Price of Football has pointed out is cut from almost identical cloth. Arnold is a rugby fan and Bristol Uni graduate who worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, who effectively replaces Ed Woodward, the rugby fan graduate from Bristol Uni who worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers tweeted Poff. Expect big changes. Hamstring from the get-go by the departure of Lord Ferg just a few months after he was appointed, Woodward will be forever renowned in United folklore, as much for the at one time or another out-of-work managers he could have appointed, but didn't Guardiola, Klopp, Pochettino, Tommy T and Conte, as those he shouldn't have appointed but did. Moyes, Van Gaal, the special one and Solskjaer came and went on his watch, while the latest incumbent has apparently so displeased the dizzying array of moaning, overpaid, underperforming divas Woodward also recruited with his lack of charisma that after just a handful of games, they already want him out the door. Soon after his appointment, United were plunged into crisis and they remain there now that he's announced he's off. And yet by many accounts, almost all of them his own, imparted through the medium of off-the-record briefings, he has done a tremendous job. On Mr. Ed's 8-year watch, United have failed to mount anything resembling a serious title challenge, spaffing more than 1 billion big ones on and at players, an astonishing number of whom failed to make anything resembling an impact. And despite his claims to the contrary, Woodward agitated more than any other big club suit in English football for the creation of the hideously unpopular Euros European dollar upper pound Zieg. For all that, it would be remiss of us not to give him credit for the good times. Glory and big vase, the FA Cup and Coca-Cola Cup, not to mention the kind of crowd-pleasing big-money commercial partnerships with assorted noodle, tire, chocolate, wine and electric razor manufacturers that drive social media interaction and engagements more than a bog-standard win in Big Cup. Should his successor succeed where he failed, Woodward's legacy will eventually be forgotten, but for now he remains still not gone. No one should suffer discrimination because of their sexual orientation and/or their gender identity, and we urge supporters not to use this chant. Tottenham criticize homophobic chants from their fans during Wednesday's 2-0 defeat at Chelsea. Here's the latest Football Weekly Extra podcast. Short of letters? Here to help. I was crime reporter of the Brighton Argus when it was in its pomp. One year, around 1985-86, I noticed a new team picture we took of Brighton and Hove Albion, as yet unpublished, had an interesting feature. In the words of Alan Partridge, one of the players' dogs had slipped out of the kennels. You are a serious newspaper and I know what you are saying now. You want a name. Of course you do. This story means nothing without a name. So here it is. Dean Saunders. I pointed this out to my betters at the paper and, incredibly, I thought they hadn't noticed, and anyway, they didn't rate it as a story. Later that afternoon the team picture, somehow, found its way into the hands of legendary Brighton-based freelancer John Connor, and the following day, a Saturday, the picture filled most of page 3 of the Daily Mirror. With a circle around said slip page, of course, Jonathan Bus Nobo indeed. Caution advised, Fiver Ed. As a Kettering Town fan, I started a furious complaint that we, as all-time leading FA Cup scorers, should be the social media disgrace fall guys for having to default our FA Cup third qualifying round tie against local village team Brackley Town last year and miss a chance to further extend our lead over Spurs at the top of the list for another season, rather than your suggestion of Leyton Orient, yesterday's Fiver. Having checked that Orient in fact had to default 3 weeks before the mighty Poppies fall from grace, I feel that in the spirit of these times I still have every right to retain a sense of fury despite the so-called facts failing to back up my heartfelt belief that we were the first. I mean, haven't we all had enough of experts anyway? Yours in unmitigated anger, etc., Simon Richardson. Great clip of the match between Whitehawk and Three Bridges, yesterday's last line. I agree that it'll be tough for the Premier League to top the level of violence and general shithousery in that match. But as for the hoiking the ball into Rozier Miles White action on display, I believe that James Milner and Wilfried Zaha are still active and getting regular match time. Mike Wilner. Send your letters to the .boss@theguardian.com. And you can always tweet the Fiver via @GuardianSport. Today's winner of our prizeless letter O the day is Jonathan Buss. Pep Guardiola and Sean Dyche have tested positive for COVID-19, meaning they'll miss the cup ties against Swindon and Huddersfield, respectively. FA Bod will proceed with a plan to use VAR at only 9 of 32 third-round cup fixtures, believing the benefits of powering the planet through convected post-match hot air using the technology outweigh inconsistency in the way ties could be decided. Prepare the backside flares. UEFA is understood to be warming to a bid for the 2028 Euros from the UK and Republic of Ireland as hopes of bringing in the 2030 World Cup begin to fade. And Inter are waiting to discover if they'll be awarded a 3-0 win after their Serie A match at Bologna was called off amid farcical circumstances. The hosts were placed into quarantine, but Inter were still forced to turn up and train before the game, as normal, with officials even tasked with inspecting the pitch, despite there being no sign of any Bologna players. The situation is chaotic, cite Inter suit Pep Murata. The Africa Cup of Nations starts on Sunday and Paul Doyle is here to tell you in no uncertain terms who to watch. Has Romelu Lukaku been in the news recently? Jacob Steinberg can't remember as Spursiness has made him forget. Let the mill feed all your transfer rumors needs. And if it's your thing, you can follow Big website on Big social face space. And Institute too.